we're doing one of my favorite things today, and that's apartment hunting. This is actually my first ever apartment hunting vlog, but I promise you there will be so many more of these because I'm moving this year and then I'm gonna have to move the next year and then I'm probably gonna have to move like 3 more times after that. But welcome to the first ever one. This is a very realistic apartment hunting in a non-aesthetic city. I love watching apartment hunting vlogs and I feel like all of them, they're in like really cool cities. Like everyone's either apartment hunting in like New York City, LA, London, Paris, like just like the coolest places. Yeah, I don't live in a cool place. Hopefully I will next year, who knows? But as of right now, I just live in like a small-ish, pretty boring city. And because of that, the apartments that I was looking at, it was slim pickings. Okay, there was not a lot of options out there. But before we get into the actual apartment hunting, I want to talk about like what my criteria for like what a good apartment is. And because I've been living on my own for the past 4 years, I feel like I have a pretty good sense of like what I want in an apartment and like what's important versus what's not so important. So this is going to be my list of must-haves and then my list of nice-haves. Must-haves being like the apartment has to have this in order for me to like even consider it. And then the nice-haves is like things that I'm looking for, but if it doesn't have it, then it's not like a huge deal breaker. So my number one absolute must-have for this apartment was to have an apartment that was not north-facing. And if you've never lived on your own or have never lived in an apartment, whenever you are apartment hunting, if you go into the apartment, make sure it's not facing north because any apartment that is facing north is not going to get any direct sunlight at any point of the day. And it is terrible. It sucks. It really sucks. Every apartment that I have lived in since I moved out on my own back in 2021 has been north-facing. And so not a single apartment that I have lived in has had direct sunlight. So getting a south-facing apartment was like number one on my priority. So number one, it had to be south-facing. Number two, kind of tied for number one because they're both pretty important, was it had to have an in-unit washer and dryer. The first apartment I ever lived in didn't have an in-unit washer and dryer, but it did have laundry on site. And honestly, carrying my laundry to their like laundry site, it truly wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. And so even though it wasn't like terrible, obviously having it in my apartment is ideal. And so I did put that on my list of must-haves, especially since my boyfriend and I are gonna be living together. So my laundry is about to double. And then the size of our apartment is we're looking for specifically a 2-bed, 2-bath. And the apartment had to have a big kitchen because my kitchen right now is like itty bitty, teeny tiny. And with the amount of food that I cook, I just need a bigger space for cooking. So 2-bed, 2-bath with a big kitchen. Those were really the only like absolute must-haves. And then the nice-haves, it was just things like a decent like apartment gym would be nice. I have a gym membership anyways, but on the days that I'm feeling like too lazy or there's too much traffic or it's like raining outside, just having like a good apartment gym to go to is really, really nice. So that's like a nice have, but definitely not like a deal breaker. An apartment having valet trash, that's kind of like tied in between a nice have and a must have. Like I was really trying to get somewhere that had a valet trash because if you've ever lived somewhere that has valet trash, you know like how nice and how convenient it is. Like you just put your trash outside your door and then somebody comes to get it for you. So that one's kind of like in between a must have and a nice have. Other things that would be nice would be like a balcony. My balcony in my apartment right now is actually super, super cute and I'm obsessed with it. But my cats are even more obsessed with my balcony. But I mainly wanted it just because I like letting my cats outside there. It's like their little like outdoor time. But that was pretty much it. That was really all I was looking for. I wasn't looking for anything super, super fancy. Just like, you know, just looking for like a little upgrade. But again, we're only going to be living there for a year. So I wasn't too specific on where we were moving. All right, but now on to the apartments. I actually only toured 5 apartments because when I said they were slim pickings, I meant slim pickings out here, okay? So first we have apartment number 1. This apartment, this one started off like so rocky because I had such issues with the staff and actually like getting a tour was so hard. The first time I went there to go try and tour, I scheduled my tour for 9 a.m. and then when I got there, they said that nobody was gonna even like be coming in until 9:30. And so then I had to come back another day and then I ended up having to go back a third time. Like it's just so many issues with them right off the bat. But this one, she started showing me the gym and like the gym wasn't bad. It's a pretty standard apartment gym, you know, nothing fancy, just like the most basic equipment. So I was kind of already like, But then we get to the apartment and out of all the apartments I toured, this one technically had one of the bigger square footages, but out of all of them, it felt the smallest. Like as soon as we walked into the apartment, I felt like the apartment itself, it didn't really have a good like natural flow to it. And then immediately as soon as I saw the kitchen, I was like, yeah, this one's a definite no because this kitchen is no bigger than my current one. So as soon as I saw that, I knew it was an immediate no. Everything else in the apartment is pretty standard. Like the bedroom size was like not bad. The bathrooms were pretty standard. And then the master bedroom bedroom had a pretty big closet, but on the other side, which I didn't record this apartment too much because the lady that was giving me the tour was kind of like, I don't know, it was just like weird vibes. Like I felt really weird being there and like recording, but the other bedroom had a weird layout and it just felt small and cramped and overall was just bad vibes the whole time. So apartment number 1 was a pretty easy no, but apartment number 2 I loved as soon as I got there. I didn't love all the gray. This one actually had less square footage than the last one, but it felt so much bigger. The kitchen was obviously gorgeous. It looks a little darker here because my phone just did not capture the color well, but the apartment felt very big. It felt very open. It had a ton of storage. Each closet in each bedroom was huge. Like I just liked how much storage there was. I love when the kitchen and the living room are just kind of together because it makes it feel very open. And their apartment gym was by far the best one that I saw out of all the places I toured. I didn't record the other half of it because somebody was over there working out and I like felt weird, but there was like a whole other side to the gym and it was huge. However, even though I love this apartment, it was pretty expensive, but it was also not in the area that we wanted. Like it was on like the complete opposite side of town. So even though I loved it, the price and the location, I was like very iffy about it. But moving on to apartment number 3. Apartment number 3 is like the perfect example of like why you need to go see a place in person, because the photos of apartment number 3 online looked immaculate. The apartment looked perfect. I went into this apartment thinking that like, yeah, this was it. Like this is the perfect apartment. And then when I got there, the apartment felt so small in person. This one had a similar square footage to apartment number 2. When I toured this one, I ended up seeing 2 units and I didn't love the kitchen layout of either of them. Like it just felt very cramped, and then also just like imagining having like all your stuff in there would make it feel even smaller. And both of the apartments I toured also, they were technically 1 bedroom, but the 2-bedroom version would have just been kind of like the same, just like mirrored on the other side. Also, the bedrooms in this apartment felt really small, but they did have a pretty decent sized closet and the balcony was really big, which I liked. The first apartment she showed me was like, okay, I didn't love it, but I could kind of see myself there. But then the second unit, guys, just wait until you see how they designed it. Also keep in mind that my number 1 must-have was to have good lighting in a south-facing apartment. Just look at the layout of this apartment. Okay, just watch. Okay, yeah, so you go in and like obviously there's already not a ton of windows, not a lot of good lighting. So the kitchen wasn't terrible. I just feel like when I'm cooking, it just wouldn't have the best flow. But then I kept looking around the apartment and just look at how they designed this apartment. So you're just like walking and then I turn, and I noticed that there's a huge hole in the wall going into the bedroom. And I was like, oh,
how weird, they didn't finish building the wall.
And this is what it looks like inside the bedroom. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but there is no windows in the bedroom. And there's also a huge gaping hole in the wall. And keep in mind, we're getting a 2-bedroom apartment, which means that the 2-bedroom apartment was basically like this, just like mirrored on the other side. So both of the bedrooms have that huge gaping hole in the wall. And when I asked the lady about like why the wall wasn't a full wall, she explained that because the bedrooms didn't have windows, they wanted some natural light to go into there. And so they just cut out part of the wall, that way light could go into the bedroom. Like, who designed this? Can you imagine living in a 2-bedroom apartment and you go and you close your door, but then there's just like a huge hole in the wall anyways? Like, I thought it was terrible. What sucks though, and what's really nice about this apartment, and one of my favorite features that I saw out of all the apartments, is that their washer and dryer was inside the closet. I truly can't think of a better place to keep your washer and dryer. Like, it's my dream in the future to have my washer and dryer be in like the master closet. That's like a dream. But unfortunately, that was the only good part about this apartment. Oh, and the apartment gym wasn't like terrible. It wasn't anything special, but it was really spacious, which is nice. But now we move on to apartment number 4. Ugh, apartment number 4. I pulled up to this place and I walked in and I was just like, this is it. This apartment, it had so much storage, it had so much space, it had wood floors all over, it had so many windows, the kitchen was huge, it had a huge island, so much storage, everything was so gorgeous, everything was so new, it had valet trash, the bedrooms felt big, the bathrooms felt big. Yeah, you can like clearly tell by my face that I love this apartment. Like, super tall ceilings, huge closets. She took me on a tour of the rest of the building, and their apartment gym honestly wasn't like anything crazy. It had pretty standard equipment, but it was really big, and I liked that they had a little like yoga room. I was absolutely in love until they told me the price of this place, and then all of my dreams about this apartment shattered. And keep in mind, like I said at the beginning of the video, is that I live in like a small city. I don't live anywhere fancy, but the rent that they were trying to charge at this apartment was acting as if we live in one of those big cities. And not only was the rent
$500
out of our budget, but there was no utilities included. And if we wanted to have a washer and dryer in unit, it was another $60 to rent it. And like the apartment was nice, but it was not nice enough for the price that they were trying to charge. But it did break my heart because I really, really loved that apartment. It's a new day. My light and my microphone ended up dying halfway through filming, but we're back and we're moving on to apartment number 5. This apartment, I'll say I was iffy about going into it just because looking at the floor plan online, I feel like the floor plan, it was either going to feel open when you were there or it was going to feel very closed off. And unfortunately, initially walking into the apartment, it did feel pretty small and it felt pretty closed off. And closed off just meaning that like each room felt like its own separate room. Whereas I prefer floor plans where everything's just kind of like merged together. Like in apartment 2 and 4, where the kitchen was just kind of like joined together with the living room. I like those floor plans just because it feels way more open, whereas this one didn't have a very good flow to it. And I will say real quick, the apartment that I was touring, it hadn't been cleaned yet, and so that's why like all of the cabinets and everything is open because they were in the process of cleaning it. But even though I didn't love the floor plan, like the bedroom felt big, the closets were pretty big. Like I liked the bathroom, it had big countertops. The bedroom was small, but honestly probably not smaller than like the current one I'm in. And then the kitchen itself was not bad. Like it was pretty big, you know, obviously a ton of cabinets. But again, what got me with this apartment was just the floor plan. Like in the second bedroom, it had that weird little cove, which could be turned into like a cute little like reading nook or something. So this apartment truly wasn't terrible, other than I just really did not like the floor plan. It felt pretty cramped in there, which I don't know if you get that vibe from the video, but being there in person, especially with just like one other person in there, like the lady that was taking me on the tour, even just being in the apartment with her, it was kind of like a weird layout, like trying to get around each other. But then the thing that really got me, and this was the same for apartment number 3, and I don't understand why apartment buildings do this. Like I honestly cannot think of a reason other than it's just cheaper construction, is that they don't finish the hallways. And so like obviously your apartment is inside, but as soon as you step outside of your apartment into the hallways aren't like finished. And so whatever the weather is outside, you're gonna feel it as soon as you step out into the hallway. And I just don't understand why apartments do that. I don't know, it's just a feature that has always bugged me because it just feels very cheap, especially because these apartments are charging so much for rent that like you couldn't even close off the hallways. Really? But that was all of the apartments I toured. I honestly thought I toured more, but I guess not. But comment down below what apartment you think I ended up renting. I did just sign my lease today, and I will be moving in less than 2 months, so be sure to be on the lookout for moving vlogs, which are my favorite. I can't wait to move. I can't wait to take you guys with me and finally say goodbye to my teeny tiny apartment. I will post an official apartment tour of my current apartment because I never did that, and I want to be able to have it like documented for you guys, and you guys will be able to like see and really compare this place to our new place. So be on the lookout for that. But thank you so much for watching. I hope you all stay happy, healthy, and wealthy, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!